Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This guy over here is Tim, and this is our joint channel, Second Legacy, and thank you so much for stopping by. Now, back by popular demand, we have another live call-in show. Now, if you want to be on the call-in show and you want to talk to me and Tim, start a conversation and really spark something for our rights, there's a Google form right down there in the description box. Make sure you fill that out. If the schedules align, we would love to have you on, and if not, we'll get you next time. But it is right down there if you'd like to be on. And if you want to see the Second Legacy grow as much as we do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you turn the notification bell on. We would love to have you in here with us to help us grow it and pass that Second Amendment along. But right now, let's get to our caller. We have Chase on the line. Chase, thank you so much for calling in. What you got for us, my man?
Yes, sir. I wanted to discuss some ATF issues that we're facing here, as a nation. Ultimately, I've had some experience as a local law enforcement officer working with ATF agents. It was not a positive one.
Right.
I guess my question was, as far as working in copper and things like that for Tim or anyone who's an FFL, what has been the experience with the ATF? Because I've never been on that side of it. I've always been in it from the perspective of either local or military law enforcement. And I've had the opportunity to work with several ATF agents. They were all very similar. And what I mean by that is they seemed to think that the Second Amendment is a second-class right. It is not inherent to the people to be able to defend themselves and have the similar weapons as the government does, And the big issue I always found was I felt like the perspective that they looked at the Constitution with was one that was very one-sided, and I really struggled to do any work with them, and even had some serious arguments with ATF agents on the job to the point where I was no longer able to work with them. So I was just kind of trying to get your guys' perspective with it. What's it like being an FFL, and have you had any run-ins with these guys on a regular basis?
So I'll start off with that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Chase, thanks for calling in, man. And thanks for the interesting perspective, because that's actually a great question. So from the FFL side of things, we've been very fortunate. So I think as with any organization, you have management, and you have rank and file, right? And then you have people with aspirations trying to climb the corporate ladder, if you will. And so you kind of get a mixed bag when dealing with anybody within any organization, including ATF. I'm sure even in local law enforcement, you have those that are very politically minded and those that just want to do their jobs and treat everybody equally, right? So you have variances in the personalities that occupy any particular organization. And ATF is no different. So where we're at, we've been very fortunate in that the ATF agents that we work with regularly, like our compliance officer and stuff like that, they're actually pro-gun, and our previous guy, he just got replaced, was former military, watched the channel, again, very pro-gun. We've had one audit in our 8-year history, and that went really smoothly. We didn't get in any trouble. We, had a couple of dings, which isn't unheard of. I mean, just about every FFL will have problems when audited. I mean, we're human and mistakes are made. The biggest problem comes, at least in our experience with our local agents, isn't the agents themselves, it's with directives from up top and political directives like those coming from Biden. So with this new zero tolerance thing, you do see thousands of FFLs being put out of business by the ATF under the direction of Biden. So these are political appointees that want to keep their job doing the bidding of the president and then instructing the rank and file to carry out those orders. And so it does have a problem, right? I think agencies like ATF need to be reorganized, and anytime we find any evidence of political influence, it needs to be rooted out and stopped immediately. These agencies cannot be politicized. So in your account of dealing with ATF agents in the field during investigations and things like that, I've heard that before from my other friends in law enforcement. And I'm not going to go into the specifics, but they too have had tenuous at best relationships with federal agents, ATF included, but other federal agencies. And I think maybe there's some sort of a respect, and I'm just guessing, but there might be some sort of a respect or lack of respect between federal agencies and local agencies and state agencies. I don't know. The feds may presume that they're, more powerful and mow better. You know what I mean? I don't know what the dynamic is there.
Yes, sir.
But, it's like, oh, you're just a local guy. We're the feds, we're the G-men. We're here to help. It's like, no, never mind. But anyway, so I don't know how much of that plays into it.
I agree with that. Yep.
Do you? Okay. Yeah. That's
I agree.
kind of,
I believe that is I think that's a big part of it. And what ends up happening is they don't seem to realize that they want us to bring cases. And so, for instance, in a small jurisdiction that I worked in, I have a personal relationship with even the justice of the peace or the judge, right? These are people that I know, I attend church with, right? And so I have to police a community that knows me, that knows my family. And I don't want to have my name attached to a case that is, in my opinion, not obeying the Constitution. And so that's really been the biggest issue with us as far as working with federal agencies, is just the fact that, like you said, they step in and think it's, they're the head dog and in charge. And unfortunately, they try to railroad us and bring charges on people that really don't deserve them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I think Tim's experience on this is so invaluable simply from that FFL perspective. I think your experience in what you just shared, I think that's also extremely valuable, because when you're looking at something that Tim just said with the politicians at the top, the bureaucrats at the top versus the rank and file, it's very easy to lump all that in under a 3-letter agency. I mean, that's essentially the organization, right? If you have a bureaucracy and it's a 3-letter agency, well, you're part of that 3-letter agency, so therefore that unanimity can also be a negative if you are trying to do a positive or a negative, whatever your actions are. You're going to get lumped in with the mass, right? I think there's a big piece of, in the ATF, there is absolute overreach on the executive bureaucracy level, from the president to the director to the DOJ. 1,000% there's overreach. They use Chevron deference like it's candy. They redefine terms however they want in existing law that Congress had already passed. They basically just change the law whole cloth by changing little definitions. That is overtly wrong. That is absolutely unconstitutional. And that is, in my opinion, let's just say not great. Let's just leave it there. But when you get down to the rank and file guys, I think that you have a little bit of a juxtaposition of, you might have one guy say, listen, I'm just trying to do my job. I don't necessarily agree, but I also don't want to say it because I don't want to get fired, because they have families as well. Like, so this is a complicated thing. I think that your motivation in that is incredibly important, right? So in a lot of the environment that we're in, like a lot of the angst that going on right now in the ATF, it's vilify that organization, which again, I've illustrated, not good at what they're doing currently. But at the same time, sometimes people can say, I just want to make a difference and I want to jump in. And you can't, it's an important thing to distinguish the individual versus the bureaucracy. Now, in your example, if they're being in that manner, that's a personality problem. Like that's an arrogance problem. That's an egotistical problem. But I think that your motivations, at least the way you just explained it, like, I'm in this community, I have family, my family knows their families, I don't want to be tied to something unconstitutional. I personally think there's nothing wrong with that. And local actually has a lot more power than you'd think when it comes to the feds' involvement.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I agree. Ultimately, it's up to local communities to police themselves as much as possible. I think that's the appropriate federal system in place.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Tim, what were you saying?
In an ideal world, I would like to see federal agents have to work through their local law enforcement to do anything to citizens of a particular state. Example, when the whole Waco thing was going down, the sheriff told the federal agents, leave him alone. He goes into town regularly. You can pick him up without any cause for concern. There won't be any violence. You can just pick him up when he goes to the grocery store, and then you can diffuse this without creating a big problem. And the federal agents use the excuse, I believe, of, well, what if his followers all commit suicide? Well, burning the building down and killing everybody inside, while not suicide, probably isn't an ideal outcome either. The point being is the sheriff was the rational one there. The sheriff tried to de-escalate and tried to convince the feds to do so, and they just went against him. If you want to deal with people like myself and you want to come talk to me as a federal agent, go to my sheriff and have a deputy come knock on my door, because those deputies, like you, I shoot with, go to church with, hang out with, ride motorcycles with, those are people I know, and they're an elected official. That sheriff is an elected official. I know that person. Mm-hmm. I can talk to them at a local restaurant, right? So I have respect for that person because my vote put them in power, right? And so if you want to come talk to me, come talk to my sheriff's department. don't roll a cattle car full of federal agents up my driveway like they did in Waco, because you're just going to prompt people like David Koresh to do crazy things. And they need to dial it back. And I also don't think the ATF should even exist. It should stop at AT. The F shouldn't be part of the designation, because what other agency do we have out there that regulates a constitutionally protected right? So I'm not, in other words, I'm not defending the ATF here. The ATF shouldn't even exist in its current form. It should be regulating tobacco and alcohol, because that isn't a constitutionally protected right. Firearms are, and I don't need government regulating that for me. But anyway, I digress.
Well, hey, I appreciate that perspective, and I agree completely. I just wanted to, have an opportunity to discuss this in this type of forum. I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I wanted to put that local law enforcement perspective. And I know it is anecdotal, but in the three occasions that I have had the chance to work with them, it's almost like it's ingrained in the training, I suppose, because it has been consistent as far as the way that local law enforcement is treated, and sort of a lack of respect for the Constitution itself, and including the Fourth Amendment. And so that's a big one too. So it's something that's ingrained, I think, in the organization at a training level.
Yeah.
Well, it's a personality of superiority. That's what that is. I'm a Fed. I can go wherever I want. I can do whatever I want. And that's not everybody, but that's what you're describing, right? But anyway, Tim, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's just it. I was just going to thank Chase for calling in, because that was a great conversation. And again, thanks for filling out the form, which we invite everybody to do. It is right down in the video description. So fill out that form, get your question on the docket, get on the show, and let's engage in a conversation, because we enjoy these types of call format videos, and you guys seem to like them too. So please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Share these videos around. Let people know the Second Legacy is here. And with that being said, we'll talk to you guys soon.